Wayne didn't blink. His fingers hovered over the medical file on his mahogany desk, the city of Chicago glittering outside his penthouse window, but none of it registered. His eyes were locked on one line. Patient is medically confirmed to be a virgin. This wasn't supposed to be complicated. He had signed the contracts, paid the agency, approved every clinical procedure. He was prepared to become a father, without love, without risk, without emotional debris. He didn't want romance, didn't want dinners or drama or late-night calls. He just wanted a child, one he could raise on his own terms without opening himself to the wounds of the past. But now, this. Her name was Erica Winslow. 25. No history of sexual partners, no STDs, no pregnancies, clean, unscarred, unbroken. That was rare, unusual, almost impossible. Wayne sat back in his chair, heart thudding louder than the office clock. The folder fell shut. He thought this was just about biology, transactions, control, but something told him he hadn't just found a surrogate. He'd stumbled into a story that would break his plan apart and rebuild him from the inside out. Welcome back to Mr. Bond's Stories, where life's most powerful lessons come wrapped in unforgettable tales. If you're new to this family, thank you for joining us. Please hit that subscribe button, because it helps us share stories like this one across YouTube. And don't forget to like and comment. Have you ever met someone who shattered everything you thought you wanted, just by existing? That's what Erica did to Wayne. He had designed a life of calculated distance, a world where logic ruled over emotion, where risk was measured in dollars and outcomes were protected by lawyers. He had no room left for hope, or tenderness, or the kind of love that left you vulnerable. But this woman, with her soft voice and her tired eyes, cracked something in him, not with flirtation, not with beauty, but with truth. Erica didn't even know she was extraordinary. That's what made her unforgettable. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She wasn't begging to be chosen. She wasn't dressing up her pain and charm or pretending to be unbreakable. She was just honest. And it hit Wayne harder than any business failure, betrayal, or heartbreak ever had. He thought he was meeting a surrogate. What he found was a woman carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders and still walking with grace. A woman who had every reason to give up her values but didn't. A woman who didn't fit into his plan because she was meant to rewrite it. Wayne Kessler had built an empire. From venture deals to tech acquisitions, he didn't just play the game. He redesigned the board. He was the man who always saw 10 moves ahead, but emotionally, he was done playing. Every woman in his past came with an expiration date. His ex-wife left with half his peace. The last woman he trusted slept with his competitor, so he stopped trying. No more dinner dates, no more vulnerability. He'd hire a surrogate, raise his own child, build a family without the weight of love dragging it down. Simple, until Erica. She wasn't flashy, she wasn't begging, she wasn't even trying to impress him. She was just trying to keep her mother alive. And yet, with every word she spoke, soft, careful, strong, Wayne felt something return to him. Not desire, not yet, but a quiet sense that maybe, just maybe, there was still someone out there worth building something real with, even if that meant tearing up everything he thought he needed. This wasn't supposed to be a love story. Wayne didn't come looking for a partner, he came to escape one. But what started as a business arrangement with a woman he thought he'd never see again turned into the most important decision of his life. Because Erica wasn't just medically unique, she was emotionally unmatched, and the very things that made her inexperienced in the world Wayne knew were the very things that made her powerful in the world his soul was craving. She didn't just carry the potential to bear his child, she carried the strength to heal his heart. But nothing about their journey would be easy. From secret gestures to scandalous accusations, this story is about what happens when money collides with meaning, and how two people who were never meant to fall in love ended up changing each other's destinies forever. So stay with us, because what happens next will challenge what you thought love could look like. If you believe love still exists, even in the most unexpected places. Please like this video and comment, I believe in real love. It helps YouTube share our stories with more people like you. And don't forget to subscribe. This is Mr. Bond Stories, and you belong here. Wayne Kessler watched the city blink beneath him. Chicago was ruthless at night, clean suits by day, dirty secrets by sundown, and no one knew that better than him. 38, divorced, no kids, no peace. He had built one of the most successful AI investment firms in the Midwest. His name sat on Forbes lists and startup contracts, but at the end of the day, all he went home to was silence. He used to believe in love, used to believe that building a family meant finding someone to share it with. But now, I want a child, he told his therapist. Just not the complications that come with a relationship. The words felt sterile, practical, but true. The last time he opened his heart, it had cost him half his wealth and all his trust. His ex-wife, Gina, had smiled in public and shredded him in courtrooms. What hurt wasn't the money, it was the manipulation, the way she weaponized love. Since then, Wayne had dated on and off, models, artists, entrepreneurs. All of them impressed, none of them stayed. Now, he was done. No more romance, no more heartbreak. Just a clean decision. Surrogacy. He could have the legacy, a child to love, a son perhaps who would carry the Kessler name without the noise of emotional entanglements. It would be clinical, controlled, and, most importantly, safe. He picked up the contract folder and nodded to himself. The future would begin without love, and for the first time in years, that felt like relief. Erica Winslow stirred soup in silence, the smell of boiled cabbage and canned chicken rising in her small kitchen. The heater clicked in the corner, working overtime against Chicago's late October chill. She glanced toward the bedroom. Her mother hadn't moved. 3 years ago, the diagnosis had come like a punch. Lupus, aggressive. The kind that wore down the body and buried the spirit. Some days her mother couldn't even lift a spoon. Erica had put her nursing degree on hold, dropped out 2 semesters before graduation. Between rent, prescriptions, and mounting hospital bills, school became a luxury. Now she worked 2 jobs, day shifts at the clinic's front desk and weekend hours as a home health aide. On Sundays, she braided neighborhood kids' hair for tips, but the most sacred part of her life, no one ever touched. Erica had never been with a man, not because she hadn't been tempted, but because she chose not to give what the world expected her to sell. Her virginity was her choice, not a burden, not a performance. It was her line in the sand. In a city where women were often reduced to currency, Erica held on to what little she had left, her body, her boundaries, and her belief in something better. She didn't judge others. She just refused to become a transaction. But lately, the weight had grown heavier. Her mother needed surgery. The hospital bills were suffocating. Credit collectors called day and night, and that afternoon, her landlord had taped a final notice to the door. She was tired of praying for small miracles, tired of choosing between gas money and groceries, and that's when the call came. A woman from the fertility agency, professional, soft-spoken, direct. You've been referred as a potential surrogate. Healthy, clean history. We offer generous compensation. Erica's throat tightened. She didn't want to say yes, but her mother was dying. The envelope sat unopened on the table for 2 days. Erica stared at it each morning as she poured her mother's pills and wiped the bathroom sink. She'd even tucked it under a pile of mail once, then pulled it right back out. Potential surrogacy match, preliminary screening packet. The words felt cold. Medical, like a transaction she was being invited to sign with her soul. It wasn't just the money, it was the meaning. Erica didn't want to rent her body to a stranger. But her mother's breathing had changed again last night. Shallower, more labored. The new medication wasn't working, and the hospital had made it clear they wouldn't schedule surgery until the outstanding balance was cleared. Nearly $130,000. She had prayed, worked, sacrificed, but nothing was enough. Now here was a folder promising a 6-figure solution for 9 months of sacrifice. No intercourse required, no connection, just clinical procedures, monitoring, delivery. "You'll never even meet the intended parent," the nurse had said on the phone. "Unless they request it. And they usually don't." That's what comforted her and unsettled her. She wasn't afraid of pregnancy. She was afraid of losing control, of becoming something bought and used. Still, she flipped through the packet. No sexual history, check. No infections, check. No pregnancies, check. No history of trauma, check. She was textbook, perfect for the role. By Friday, the clinic had scheduled her first medical exam. By Monday, she was in the lab, blood drawn, vitals measured. And by Wednesday, she sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering if dignity could survive desperation. When her mother coughed through the wall that night, something inside her broke. Erica whispered, "God, I'm not selling myself. I'm saving her." And in that moment, she signed the final consent. Wayne set down his glass of bourbon as the encrypted email came through. Subject: confirmed match. Donor file, Erica Winslow. He tapped the screen, not expecting much. Over the past month, he had skimmed through nearly a dozen profiles, all medically viable, all emotionally forgettable. But this one, the file opened with routine data, 25 years old. 5 feet 7 inches, no prior pregnancies, no surgeries, excellent health. Then came the social profile, a front desk worker at a community clinic, dropped out of nursing school due to financial constraints, primary caregiver to a chronically ill parent. Wayne's eyes slowed. That was unusual. Most applicants were college grads, part-time yoga teachers, or trust fund girls looking for fast money. But this woman had real pressure, real hardship, and she still cleared all medical markers. His brow furrowed. He scrolled to the health section. Immunizations up to date. No STDs, no history of substance use. Then he saw it. Sexual history, none. Patient is medically confirmed to be a virgin. Wayne blinked, once, twice. He read it again. Virgin. It wasn't the word that stunned him. It was the implication. A woman that life had beaten on every front. Poverty, illness, burnout. Still walked into that exam room untouched? Not out of fear. Not shame, conviction. Who was she? Why hadn't she taken easier exits? Why was this the point where she finally said yes? Wayne leaned back in his chair, the city skyline behind him fading into blur. He wasn't religious. He didn't get sentimental. But for the first time since signing the surrogacy papers, he hesitated. Something about this wasn't medical anymore. The agency office was simple. Soft lighting, neutral walls, a diffuser humming lavender oil into the air. It was designed to feel calming, unthreatening, forgettable. Wayne showed up 10 minutes early, dressed down for once. Charcoal sweater, dark jeans, no watch, no cufflinks. Just him. Erica arrived 5 minutes late. She clutched a tan notebook, worn at the edges, and wore a navy blazer that had seen better days. Her braids were neatly pinned, and a silver cross peeked from beneath her blouse. They were introduced briefly by the coordinator, who smiled too hard and excused herself. Silence filled the small meeting room. Wayne broke it first. "Erica, right?" "Yes, sir. I read your file," he said. "I assumed," she replied, her voice quiet but unshaken. There was a pause. A long one. "I don't usually request to meet candidates," Wayne admitted. "I don't usually say yes to things like this," Erica answered, their eyes locked for the first time. Wayne wasn't sure what he had expected. Nervousness? Pleasantries? But what he found was something far rarer. Calm, measured strength. No desperation, no show. "Why now?" he asked softly. "My mom's sick. I can't afford her treatment," Erica said, eyes steady. "But I'm not doing this for quick money. I'm doing it because I have no other doors left." He nodded slowly. "And you?" she asked. "Why are you doing this?" Wayne's jaw tensed. "Because love has never worked for me." She didn't flinch, just nodded. "I just want it clear. I'm not broken. I'm not fragile. I'm just tired." Wayne didn't know what to say, so he didn't. He just watched her walk out, and for the first time in a long time, silence felt full. Wayne didn't sleep that night. There was no self-pity in her voice, no performative courage, just truth, the kind of truth most people buried beneath charm or noise. But she didn't. And that notebook she clutched? He remembered the way her fingers tightened around it like it carried something sacred, not just notes, something personal, private, a piece of herself she still needed to hold on to. She was supposed to be a stranger, a vessel, but now she had a voice, a story, and a presence that refused to be flattened into paperwork. Wayne got up, walked to the kitchen, poured a second glass of water, and opened her file again. This time, he didn't read it like a businessman. He read it like a man who suddenly wasn't sure of the contract he'd signed. There were no red flags, no complications. She had passed every test. But what haunted him was that she didn't belong in this situation. Not really. She wasn't desperate. She was disciplined. She wasn't reckless. She was responsible. She wasn't empty. She was full of resilience, of dignity, of something he hadn't seen in a long time. Wayne exhaled hard and picked up his phone. He didn't call the agency. He called his attorney, and in a voice low and steady he said, "Pull me out of this." Effective immediately, there was a pause on the other end. "Sir, the embryo process is scheduled next week. Cancel it. Terminate the entire arrangement. Do you want to notify the surrogate?" Wayne's eyes narrowed at the moonlit skyline. "No, I want her to forget I ever existed." Have you ever met someone who made you question everything you thought you wanted? Let us know in the comments below. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. More life-changing stories coming your way right here on Mr. Bond Stories. Wayne didn't announce his decision. No calls to the agency, no drawn-out meetings, no explanations. He simply opened his secured line and called his personal attorney. "I need a full withdrawal from the surrogacy program," he said. "Understood," came the reply. "Do you wish to file a formal termination?" "No, I want it off the record. Tell them not to contact her. I don't want her notified." There was a pause on the other end. "Sir, may I ask?" "No," Wayne cut in. "Just handle it." The lawyer hesitated. "You understand this will nullify the embryo contract. Once it's pulled, we can't reverse." "I said end it," Wayne repeated. Then quieter. "Please." That night the lights in his penthouse stayed off. He sat by the window in silence, watching taillights drift across Michigan Avenue. He didn't know why he felt unsettled. He wasn't changing his mind because of attraction. He didn't even know Erica beyond that brief meeting. But something about her quiet strength, her self-respect, her stillness in the face of survival, had shifted something inside him. He could have moved forward. Legally, clinically, everything was ready. But in his gut, it felt wrong. Erica had walked into that room to save her mother, not to become someone's solution. And Wayne couldn't go through with turning her into a contract. The next morning, Wayne walked into his private office and closed the door behind him. He didn't call the clinic. He called his financial advisor. "I want 3 transfers made," he said flatly, quietly, through trust proxies, no name attached. The man on the other end didn't flinch. He was used to discretion. Wayne read from a handwritten list on his desk. First, student loan balance, $73,000. Federal and private accounts, full payoff. Second, credit card debt. Personal lines, 3 accounts, $11,000 total. Third, medical bills, $134,000 owed and projected, based on her mother's diagnosis. "I want it covered through a donation fund. Keep her mother's treatment active for the next 2 years. No billing to the family. No invoices." The line was quiet. "Do you want her notified of the donor?" "No," Wayne said. "Leave it unclaimed. If they press for a name, use the phrase, 'paid by someone who believes you deserve peace.' That's all." He ended the call and leaned back in his chair. The numbers didn't shake him. He had spent triple that on a single art piece last month. But this felt heavier. Because it wasn't charity. It wasn't even guilt. It was something else. A quiet urge to give this woman a new page, without forcing her to write his name on it. He didn't want to be her savior. He just didn't want her to feel for sale anymore. The call came while Erica was restocking supplies at the clinic. "Is this Miss Erica Winslow?" the woman asked, her voice professional but warm. "Yes. Who's this?" "I'm calling from billing at Southview Medical. I wanted to inform you that your account has been marked as paid in full, both past and projected care." Erica blinked. "I think you have the wrong file." "No, ma'am. It's your mother's chart, and your student and credit accounts were also closed this morning. Full clearance." Erica's breath caught. "That's not possible." The woman paused, as if prepared for disbelief. It was processed through a third-party trust. The statement included a message. "A message?" Erica whispered. "Paid by someone who believes you deserve peace." Her knees buckled slightly. She reached for the counter. "Is this a joke?" she asked. "No, ma'am. We'll send written confirmation by mail, but the account has been cleared. You may contact us if you have further questions." The line went dead. Erica stood still for nearly a minute, phone in hand, chest tight. She hadn't told anyone, not even her best friend. The only person who knew about the surrogacy was her mother, and barely at that. She pressed a palm to her stomach, trying to breathe. This had to be a mistake, but the numbers weren't wrong. The debt was gone, all of it. She sat down in the staff lounge, the hum of the vending machine behind her, and tried to piece together the fragments of her reality. And that's when her eyes filled. She wasn't used to kindness, especially the kind that came with no name attached. That night, Erica boiled rice and made her mother's favorite meal, okra stew with smoked turkey. She didn't say a word about the call. She couldn't. Her voice was still too shaky. Her mother, propped against pillows, smiled weakly. "You cooking this must mean trouble." Erica let out a breathless laugh. Maybe it means I'm finally catching my breath." They ate slowly. Afterward, her mother drifted into sleep. Erica cleaned the dishes in silence, then sat cross-legged on the floor of their living room, facing the faded couch and the lamp with a flickering bulb. And she began to pray. Not the rushed kind, not the begging kind, just honest. "God, I don't know who did this. I don't know what to call this. I didn't earn it. I didn't trade for it. I didn't even ask for it." Her voice cracked. "I was ready to give up my body. I was ready to become a carrier for someone I'd never meet, because I thought it was the only way." Tears came. Not loud, just steady, but somebody saw me, and they didn't ask for anything back. She wiped her face with her sleeve. "Please bless whoever they are, wherever they are. And if this is you, thank you for seeing me." She stood slowly, walked to her mother's room, and crawled into bed beside her. Her mother stirred. "What's wrong, baby?" Erica laid her head on her mama's chest, quiet tears falling. "Nothing," she whispered. "Everything's going to be okay." 3 weeks had passed since the call. Erica hadn't heard another word. No follow-up, no reveal, nothing. She had called the hospital billing office 3 times just to confirm it wasn't an error. It wasn't. Whoever paid her debts hadn't left a trace. She was walking out of the clinic on a cloudy Wednesday, holding her mother's prescription bag, when she saw it. The black SUV parked across the street. The window rolled down slowly. Wayne, no suit, no security, no luxury branding. Erica froze. He crossed the street casually, like this was a normal thing. Like they met up like this every week. "Still prefer oat milk?" he asked. She blinked. What are you doing here?" "I figured you might still be working this shift. Thought I'd wait and see if I was right." He handed her one of the cups. Erica stared at it, then back at him. "Did you do it?" Wayne looked at her directly. "Do what?" Her grip tightened around the coffee. "All of it. The debt, my mom's care. The hospital said, I asked them not to tell you, so it was you?" He nodded once. "It wasn't a transaction. You don't owe me anything." She opened her mouth, but no words came. "I didn't come here for thanks," he added. "I just wanted to see how you're doing." Erica held the cup close to her chest, heat rising into her fingers. "I don't understand," she whispered. Wayne looked at her, and for the first time since they met, his voice softened. "Neither do I." They sat on a wooden bench outside the clinic, coffee cups growing cold between them. Erica didn't say much at first. Neither did Wayne. The cars passed. The wind moved. A woman walked by, pushing a stroller. Finally, Erica broke the silence. "You canceled it, didn't you?" Wayne looked straight ahead. "Yes, the surrogacy, the contract, all of it." He nodded. "I ended it the day after I met you." She turned toward him, eyes narrowed. "But why?" "You were supposed to be a solution," he said softly. "But you walked in with that notebook and looked me in the eye like a whole person. Not a carrier, not a service, just a woman with integrity." Erica looked away, unsure what to do with the swirl rising inside her. Wayne continued. "I spent most of my adult life trying to protect myself from people who said one thing and did another. People who smiled and sliced at the same time. You didn't ask for anything, not even after the debt was gone. I didn't know it was you," she said. He nodded again. "That's what made it real." Wayne leaned back, arms stretched across the bench. "I don't want a child without love anymore," he said quietly. Erica's brows lifted. He didn't flinch. "I wanted legacy. Now I want faith. I want to believe in something again. Someone, not a perfect person, just someone who makes me feel like I'm not walking through this life wearing armor." Erica looked down at her shoes. "And you think that's me?" "I don't know yet," he said. "But I'd like to find out." Erica didn't respond right away. She just sat there, legs still, coffee cooling in her hands. The world around them moved, but she stayed locked in the moment. What was she supposed to say? 3 weeks ago he was a stranger with a medical contract and a cold demeanor. Now he was sitting beside her, undoing the very deal she thought would break her. He hadn't tried to charm her, hadn't flirted, hadn't asked for anything. Just paid off her pain and handed her a coffee like it was the most normal thing in the world. "You don't want anything?" she asked quietly. "No," Wayne said. "You don't expect me to, what, fall for you now?" "No," he repeated. "I'm just asking if we can talk, with no money between us." Erica let out a short breath. Not quite a laugh, not quite a sigh. "That's the part I don't get," she said. "People don't do that, not without wanting something." Wayne glanced at her, then looked back at the street. "I wanted a child because I thought I didn't need a connection. I thought it would be easier, simpler, and now I think maybe I was hiding." And something about that made her want to stay seated, even if she didn't know where it would lead. But for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel alone on the bench. They didn't text much during the week. Wayne would send the occasional message, "How's your mom?" or "Try the tea I left on your porch." Erica would reply with quiet thank yous or short updates. It wasn't a flurry of emojis, or it was slower, quieter, intentional. On Saturday, he showed up at the small apartment building with a brown bag of groceries, fruit, rice, soup bones, and her favorite almond milk. He didn't stay long, just stood outside and asked if she had time for a walk. She hesitated, then nodded. They strolled 2 blocks, talking about books. Erica had always loved novels but hadn't picked one up in months. Wayne promised to bring her something next weekend. The next Saturday, he returned with the color purple and a small journal with gold trim. "I don't want to read alone," he said. "So I'll write what I think. You write what you think. Then we talk about it." Erica raised an eyebrow but smiled. "That's cheesy. I'm okay with that." Every weekend after that became their rhythm. No titles, no promises, just visiting. Sometimes he helped her prep soup or fold laundry while her mother napped. Other times, they sat outside the clinic with iced coffees and said nothing for 10 minutes straight. He never asked for more, never hinted, never touched. But Erica started noticing things. The way he remembered small details, like how she only drank water with lemon. The way he read between her silences instead of filling them. And slowly, the tension she carried in her shoulders began to melt, not into desire, not yet, but into something that felt like recognition. It started with an invitation Erica didn't plan to send. Her aunt was visiting from Joliet, and her mother had insisted on a small Sunday dinner. Nothing fancy, just baked chicken, candied yams, macaroni, greens, and her aunt's famous cornbread. "You should bring your friend," her mom said, adjusting her scarf. "I didn't ask all that," her mother cut in, smirking. "So she asked Wayne." half expecting him to make an excuse. He said yes without blinking. That Sunday, he showed up in jeans and a white button-down, holding a grocery store pie in one hand and a bottle of sparkling apple cider in the other. The moment he stepped into the kitchen, the temperature shifted. Her aunt gave him the up-down. Her mother smiled but didn't speak. Wayne offered to help set the table. He even poured juice into the mismatched glasses. When they sat to eat, Erica caught herself watching him more than once. He didn't flinch at the spice, didn't wrinkle his nose at the smothered greens, didn't overcompensate with compliments either. He just ate, listened, laughed softly when her aunt started grilling him. "You got people in Chicago, Mr. Wayne?" "No, ma'am, just my mother. She's in Vermont now. You ever had real fried okra? Today might be the first time." You chew like a man who doesn't waste food." "I like that." After dinner, her aunt cornered Erica in the hallway. "He's real," she said. "You better not let that one slip." Erica blushed. "It's not like that." Her aunt winked. "It ain't yet." The next weekend, she took Wayne to her church. It wasn't for the sermon, it was for the sound. He sat beside her in the back row, eyes closed while the choir sang total praise. He didn't look out of place, just quiet, reverent. Later, as they walked to the car, Wayne said softly, "That was the most peace I've felt in a while." Erica didn't answer. She just unlocked the car and let the echo of that moment settle between them. The following Saturday, Wayne didn't come to Erica's apartment. He sent a message instead. "I want to show you something. I'll come pick you up, bring nothing but a jacket." He arrived just after 6. No suit. Just slacks, a navy sweater, and that clean-shaven look he wore like armor. They drove quietly, the streets lit in gold as dusk crept over the city. He didn't take her downtown. He took her to a neighborhood, tucked behind Hyde Park, where row houses met bookstores and forgotten record shops. They entered a small venue. No sign, no crowd, just soft candlelight, and the low hum of a bass warming up. "What is this?" she asked. "Live jazz. Every first Saturday." Inside, the room held maybe 30 people. No flashing lights, no noise, just a stage, a mic, and 3 musicians tuning their instruments. They took a table near the back. Wayne ordered 2 ginger teas and opened a book from his coat pocket. "Langston Hughes," he said. "Favorite of mine." She blinked. "You read poetry?" He nodded. Sometimes when the noise gets too loud. The trio began to play, slow, thoughtful, like they were painting the room in rhythm. Wayne handed her the book. "Read page 34 when you get home." She opened it. The title read, "I Too." He didn't explain, and she didn't ask. Later they stepped outside. The wind had picked up. Wayne offered her his coat. She hesitated, then let him drape it around her shoulders. "I come here when I don't want to talk but still want to feel something." She glanced up at him. "You bring a lot of women here?" He looked at her gently. "No, just you." It became their unspoken ritual. Saturday afternoons turned into evenings. 1 hour blurred into 4. Neither of them rushed to end it, but neither of them crossed any lines. No hand-holding, no flirting, just presence. They sat close, but not close enough to touch. On one quiet evening, Erica invited him in while her mother rested. The living room smelled of lavender and warm tea. Gospel music hummed low from the kitchen radio. Wayne sat on the couch, watching as Erica folded laundry. "You don't have to stay," she said. "I know," he replied, "but you keep showing up." She looked over her shoulder. "Why?" "Because I can breathe around you." Erica blinked, unsure how to respond, so she didn't. She handed him a pile of towels. He folded them slowly, carefully, as if the act itself meant something. When she went to refill their mugs, he glanced around. No art on the walls, just framed photos. Her and her mother at a fair, a little girl with cornrows smiling at a school recital. Everything in the room felt lived in, loved. Later that evening, she read aloud from the Langston Hughes book he gave her. Her voice was soft, her rhythm steady. Wayne didn't interrupt. He just watched her speak like she belonged to another time. When she finished, she looked up and said, "Why do you always look at me like that?" He took a breath. Because you make silence feel safe." The words hung between them, no response needed. Erica glanced down, a quiet warmth spreading across her chest. Still no touch, but the air between them felt charged, like something sacred was building in the space they refused to rush. It hit her on a Tuesday. Not during a grand gesture. Not during one of their weekend visits. Just a simple moment. She had a long shift at the clinic. Her mother had a flare-up that morning. The pharmacy shorted one of her prescriptions. Rent was due in 5 days. By the time Erica got home, she was running on fumes. She dropped her bag at the door, kicked off her shoes, and found a brown paper sack on her doormat. No note. Inside, 2 containers of soup from her favorite corner deli, crackers, a small jar of honey, and a single lemon. She didn't need a signature to know who it was from. Wayne hadn't even texted. He didn't need to. That night, she sat on the couch, feet tucked beneath her, spooning broth into her mouth with quiet gratitude. No one had ever taken care of her like this before. Not by force, not for show, just thoughtfully, silently, repeatedly. That weekend, when he knocked, she opened the door without hesitation. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded. "Come in." They didn't talk much that day. She let him read on the couch while she graded some forms for a friend's GED class. Later, he made tea. She passed him a blanket. When he left, she walked him to the door. And as he turned to say goodbye, she did something she hadn't done with any man since high school. She smiled, genuinely, and said, "Thank you for showing up." Every time. Wayne held her gaze. "You don't have to thank me." "I know," she said. "That's why I did." And for the first time in years, Erica locked the door behind someone without feeling the need to double-check it. Wayne had been in love before. At least that's what he used to believe. But what he'd felt with those women, excitement, desire, pride, it always came with a shadow, a ticking clock, a constant pressure to give more, prove more, be more. With Erica, there was none of that. She didn't flatter him. She didn't ask about his portfolio. She didn't dress to impress or throw compliments around like confetti. And yet, every time he left her presence, he felt lighter. It wasn't one big moment that made him fall. It was the small ones. The way she greeted the janitor by name at the clinic. The way she reheated soup for her mother at midnight without complaining. The way she held space in a room, not to take over but to make others feel welcome. He noticed how she never tried to be perfect, but always tried to be kind. One Saturday, while they were walking in Jackson Park, they passed a woman struggling with a stroller and a crying toddler. Erica didn't think twice. She walked over, crouched down, offered a juice box from her tote bag, and soothed the child with a lullaby under her breath. Wayne watched silently, and something in him cracked open, not out of pity, but out of recognition. She was everything he wasn't sure existed anymore. Genuine, grounded, gracious even when the world hadn't been kind to her. That night he lay awake staring at the ceiling in his penthouse. He didn't need a DNA match or a surrogate contract. Not as a mother to his child, but as a woman who had reminded him, without trying, that real love isn't loud, it's consistent. It was raining that night, not heavy, just enough to make the streets slick and the world quieter. Wayne rested his hands on the steering wheel, eyes watching the wipers sweep across the windshield. Erica glanced at him. She could feel something sitting on the edge of his breath. "You don't have to talk," she said gently. "But if you need to, I was married once." She turned toward him fully, surprised. He had never mentioned it. She was beautiful, sharp, knew how to work a room better than I ever could. We looked good together in public and in private. He hesitated. "We were strangers who got really good at pretending." "What happened?" Erica asked softly. "She cheated with someone who pitched to my firm. A guy I once mentored." Erica winced. "It wasn't just the betrayal," Wayne continued. "It was how she spun it. Made me the villain. Said I was cold, unavailable, too focused on legacy." He looked over at Erica. "Maybe I was." Silence settled. "I didn't cry when she left," he admitted. "Didn't even drink. I just went to work the next day like nothing happened." I told myself love was a liability, that building something permanent meant leaving the back door open for pain. He exhaled. So I shut all the doors. Every one. Erica didn't rush to comfort him. She didn't fill the silence. She just reached into her bag, pulled out a wrapped piece of cornbread, and handed it to him. Eat, she said. You're too skinny to carry all that bitterness. Wayne let out a soft laugh, a real one. She smiled. And in that moment, with a piece of homemade cornbread in one hand, and a heart slowly unclenching in the other, he realized. She didn't want to fix him. She just wanted to know him. It was late. Her mother had already gone to bed, and the TV buzzed low with an old documentary no one was watching. Outside, rain tapped gently on the windows like it, too, had something to say. Wayne sat on the floor of Erica's small living room, leaning against the couch with his shoes off and socks mismatched. He'd stopped by after work with a carton of peach cobbler from a bakery she liked. She had made tea. They hadn't planned to talk long, but hours passed, and neither one of them moved. Wayne had just told her about the worst night of his divorce, not the affair, but the aftermath, the silence, the way no one ever really prepares a man for that kind of emptiness. And Erica had listened, not interrupted, not offered a fix, just listened. Now, they sat in silence again. But it wasn't empty. It was full of things unsaid. She turned to him. You want more tea? He looked up at her, eyes tired but soft. Only if you're having some too. She got up, walked to the kitchen, and paused with her hand on the kettle. When she came back, she didn't have any tea. She sat beside him on the couch, closer than usual, their arms brushed, just barely. He didn't move. She placed her hand over his gently. I don't want to be strong tonight, she said. Her voice didn't shake, but it was soft, honest. Wayne turned his palm up and wrapped his fingers around hers. You don't have to be. Her eyes met his. There were no fireworks, no background music, no scripted lines. Are you sure? He asked. She nodded. I've waited all my life to give myself to someone who wouldn't see it as a prize. Just as me, Wayne swallowed. Then I'll wait as long as you need. You already did. And with that, she stood, reached for his hand, and led him slowly into the bedroom. The bedroom light was dim, just the glow from a single lamp on the dresser. Erica stood near the edge of the bed, her breath steady, her fingers playing with the edge of her sleeve. Wayne stood still in the doorway, waiting for her to speak first. She didn't. She stepped closer instead. With quiet hands, she reached for the hem of her cardigan and slipped it off her shoulders. He didn't stare. He didn't rush forward. He looked at her face, just her face, as if he were memorizing the shape of her bravery. I've never done this, she said softly. I know, he replied. That's why I'm not here to take. I'm here to receive, only what you want to give. Her eyes glistened, but no tears fell. She walked to him slowly. Her fingertips traced the edge of his collar, then slid down his arms until they reached his hands. He let her lead. When she kissed him, it wasn't practiced. It wasn't bold. It was trembling. His hands rested on her waist, lightly, reverently, like she was sacred space he didn't deserve to enter without permission. They moved like music. No rush, no noise. When she lay back on the bed, he followed, fully clothed at first, still slow, still gentle. He kissed the inside of her wrist, the curve of her jaw, the top of her shoulder. Each kiss felt like a question, and each time her body answered by moving closer, not away. When they finally undressed, it wasn't about revealing, it was about releasing. Their bodies didn't collide, they fit. They whispered names, not instructions. They gasped softly, not loudly. They moved like two people who had been waiting, not for the act, but for the right soul. And when it was done, they didn't rush to speak. Erica rested her head on his chest. His hand slid up to her back, warm and steady. Sunlight filtered through the blinds in thin gold lines. The city outside was already awake, but inside Erica's bedroom, the world felt suspended, quiet, still, safe. Erica stirred first. She turned slowly, her cheek brushing the cotton pillowcase. her eyes falling on the man lying beside her. Wayne wasn't asleep. He was watching her. Not staring, just resting his gaze on her face, as though even blinking would feel like missing something sacred. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Erica whispered, "You didn't leave." Wayne's lips curved into the faintest smile. "Was I supposed to?" She shook her head. "No. I'm not used to this." He reached out, brushing a stray braid from her forehead with the back of his hand. His touch was feather-light, more reverent than intimate. "You're safe," he said. Her chest rose, breath catching at the simplicity of those words. They lay there, silence stretching in a way that wasn't uncomfortable. It was grounding. Finally, Erica sat up, pulling the sheet around her shoulders. She looked out the window, then back at him. "Last night wasn't just—" She stopped, searching for the right words. "It wasn't just physical for me." Wayne sat up too, leaning his elbows on his knees. He turned to her, his voice steady. "It wasn't for me either. I've been with women before, but I've never been with someone. Do you understand?" Her eyes softened. "I think I do." He reached for her hand, and she let him take it. There were no grand declarations, no rushing to define what had happened. But the unspoken truth filled the room. This wasn't a one-night crossing of boundaries. It was the beginning of something neither of them wanted to walk away from. Erica exhaled slowly, leaning her head onto his shoulder. "Then let's not ruin it with too many words," she murmured. Wayne kissed her temple, his breath steady against her skin. "Agreed," he whispered. And in that fragile morning light, their bond stopped being tentative. It became solid. The day stretched into afternoon. Erica had changed into a simple t-shirt and leggings, her hair pulled back loosely. Wayne had made coffee in her tiny kitchen, fumbling with the machine until she laughed and showed him the trick. They sat together at the small table, 2 mugs steaming between them. She looked at him carefully. "You don't have to keep showing up, you know." Wayne tilted his head. "Do you want me to stop?" Her lips parted. She wanted to say no immediately, but old fears held her tongue. She had never trusted permanence, not from men, not from money, not from promises. Wayne reached across the table and covered her hand with his. His grip was firm but gentle. "I've spent years building walls to keep people out," he said. "But last night made me realize something. I don't just want to be in your life, Erica. I want to protect it. Protect you." Her eyes flickered with surprise. "Protect me?" "Yes." His voice was low, steady. "Not because you're fragile. You're stronger than anyone I've ever known. But strength deserves rest. You've carried too much for too long. Let me carry some of it." She swallowed hard, blinking back emotion she hadn't expected. "Wayne." He squeezed her hand, leaning forward slightly. His words came like a vow, whispered as though the air itself needed to hear them. "I want to protect you forever." The silence after was thick, not uncomfortable but holy. Erica drew in a shaky breath. She had prayed for relief, for help, for her mother's healing. She had never prayed for this man, this moment, this kind of love. But as she looked at him, she felt it. Not rescue, not charity. A partnership, a promise. She let out a small laugh through her tears. "Forever's a big word, Wayne." He smiled. "So am I." Her laughter grew, soft but real, and for the first time in years, Erica let herself believe that forever might not be a fairy tale. Do you think real love waits for the right moment? Or does it just happen? Let me know in the comments below. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you never miss another story here on Mr. Bond's Stories. The clinic bathroom was too small for big news. Erica stared at the test strip on the counter, steam from the sink curling toward the tiny frosted window. She hadn't felt right for a week, queasy in the morning, sleepy by noon, a strange flutter of nerves whenever she smelled coffee. 2 lines. She sat on the closed toilet lid and pressed her palms together, not sure if she should laugh or cry or both. Logic barged in. Tests could be wrong. She needed proof. At lunch, a nurse friend guided her to an exam room. "No charge," the friend whispered. "You've earned a break." The gel was cold on her belly. The room hummed with the soft buzz of old equipment. The screen flickered, and there it was, a small, steady rhythm. Erica's breath hitched. "Is that heartbeat?" the nurse said, smiling. "Healthy?" Tears filled Erica's eyes. She covered her mouth, a soft sound escaping that she'd never made before. Half laugh, half prayer. The nurse moved the wand slightly. "Wait," the nurse said. "Hold on." Another flicker, another steady rhythm. The nurse's eyebrows lifted. "Erica, you're not hearing things. There are two, Erica whispered. 2 heartbeats. The room swayed for a second, not from fear, just from the weight of joy landing all at once. The nurse printed 2 grainy images and slid them into a paper sleeve. Erica held the pictures like they were warm. She thought of Wayne's steady hands pouring tea, the coat he placed over her shoulders outside the jazz club, the promise he'd whispered at her kitchen table. She was carrying life. 2 lives. She left the exam room slowly, as if walking too fast might jar the miracle loose, and stepped into the hallway with a new kind of silence inside her, one that felt like the start of a hymn. The bus ride home felt longer than usual. Chicago rolled past in gray blocks and flashes of street vendors, but Erica barely saw any of it. The paper sleeve with the ultrasound photos stayed tucked against her chest, held by both hands like a fragile gift. Joy came first, bright and overwhelming. Then came fear, like a knock you can't ignore. She pictured late-night feedings, doctor visits, bills she couldn't predict. She pictured her mother's good days and bad days, the way pain sometimes took her breath away without warning. Could she care for twins and still be present for her mama? Her mind reached for all the reasons to panic. Her heart kept returning to the same answer: "You're not alone anymore." She unlocked the apartment and went straight to her room. Sitting on the edge of the bed, she opened the sleeve and laid the pictures side by side. 2 small shapes, 2 little pulses, 2 small shapes. 2 little pulses, a double echo of hope. Her chest tightened again, this time from the strangeness of being chosen by life, twice. "Lord," she whispered, "I don't know what I'm doing, but if you brought me here, help me walk it with courage." She imagined telling Wayne and felt another wave crash through. Disbelief. The kind that makes you check the door, the stove, the lights, even though you already know the answer. She stared at the photos again. Still there. Still real. She texted him, "Can you meet me at the garden behind St. Mark's after work? It's important." 3 dots appeared. "Yes, I'll be there." She tucked the photos back into the sleeve, pressed the edges flat, and changed into a soft sweater her mother once knitted when her hands weren't sore. In the mirror, she saw the same woman from last night, only steadier. A woman learning that joy and fear can sit in the same chair without canceling each other out. She grabbed her coat and stepped into the hallway with a careful, protective posture she'd never worn before. The church garden behind St. Mark's was small. Raised beds, a wire trellis, a few benches painted green by someone with a patient hand. Evening light pooled on the brick path. Wayne arrived early. He stood with his hands in his pockets, head tilted to the sky like he was trying to slow his thoughts. When Erica turned the corner, he straightened. The way he said her name, soft, relieved, made something loosen in her shoulders. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded, then shook her head, then laughed at herself. "I don't know how to answer that." "Tell me what you need," he said. She handed him the paper sleeve. He opened it carefully, as if it might tear just from being seen too quickly. His eyes scanned the first image, then the second. His face changed in stages: curiosity, recognition, and finally a kind of awe she'd never seen on him, not even during jazz or poetry. He glanced up, voice barely above a whisper. Two. He looked back at the photos, jaw working like he'd lost access to language. For a long beat he said nothing. Then a laugh broke free, pure, unpolished, surprised. He pressed the heel of his palm to his eye, trying to catch himself. "Are you okay?" Erica asked, smiling now. He nodded hard. I'm more than okay." The man who once planned a family without love stood there with tears he didn't hide. He pulled in a breath that sounded like the first one after being underwater too long and stepped closer, stopping just short of touching her. "Thank you," he said, not as if she'd done him a favor, but as if he'd been given a mercy. "We didn't plan this," she said. "No," he replied, eyes bright. "But I think I was being prepared for it." They stood together with the garden quiet around them, city noise far off like a memory. Wayne folded the sleeve shut with care, then carefully, so carefully, placed his palm over hers on the envelope, holding it as if it were both map and destination. They sat on the nearest bench. The paint was chipped, the wood a little rough, but it felt right for a promise that didn't need chandeliers to be true. Wayne kept his voice steady. "We take this one step at a time. First, I'll set up appointments with an OB you trust, your choice. I'll also arrange a driver for days you're too tired to ride the bus." He paused. "Only if you want that. Nothing happens without your yes." Erica watched him. He wasn't listing favors, he was offering structure, without control. "Medical," he continued, counting on his fingers, covered. "Groceries covered. If you want to stay here, I'll make this place safer. Better locks, a working heater, whatever you need. If you'd rather move, I'll find a place near your church and the clinic. No pressure, just options." She exhaled. "Wayne," he met her eyes. "I'm not trying to take over your life. I'm trying to stand next to it. You and your mother come first. Always." The words landed with the weight of a vow. "And if I'm scared sometimes," she asked, "then that's what the middle of the night is for," he said. "Call me. I'll pick up." He slipped a small card from his wallet and pressed it into her hand. Direct line. No assistant. No gatekeeper. A breeze moved through the trellis. Somewhere, a siren wailed and faded. "What about you?" she asked. "Are you scared?" "Every day," he admitted. "But I'm done letting fear make my choices. I want to choose family. With you. With them." He nodded toward the envelope. "Whatever it takes." Erica looked down at the card, then at their shadows overlapping on the brick. She placed the card in the same sleeve as the ultrasound photos, like it belonged there. "Okay," she said quietly. "One step at a time." He gave the smallest smile, more relief than celebration. One step at a time. A week later they sat in the waiting room for Erica's first official prenatal appointment. A TV in the corner played a muted daytime show. A toddler nearby tapped his shoes on the chair and grinned at anyone who made eye contact. Erica pretended to read a brochure, while Wayne pointed out everything on the checklist they could do early. When the nurse called her name, they went in together. Blood work, vitals, gentle questions. The doctor smiled when she heard 2 heartbeats, as if she were being let in on a secret. On the way out, they stopped in the small courtyard beside the building. Wayne pulled 2 small flat stones from his coat pocket, each smooth, each engraved with a single star. "My mother used to give me these as a kid, whenever I had a big day," he said. "Said they reminded me to look up." Erica turned a stone in her fingers, thinking. "I've been trying to think of names," she admitted, cheeks warm. "I know it's early, but it helps me talk to them." He listened, hands tucked in his pockets. "Luke," she said softly. "My mama used to read me from the Gospel of Luke when I couldn't sleep. Stories about mercy and second chances." Wayne nodded, a quiet smile forming. "Luke is perfect." "And Derek," she continued. "When I was a kid, I looked up what it meant. Gifted ruler or the people's leader, depending on the source. But I don't care about titles. I like how it sounds when you say it next to Luke, like 2 brothers who keep each other steady." He tested it under his breath. Luke and Derek. The names settled between them like anchors. He reached out, stopping short of touching her belly, and asked, "May I?" She placed her hand over his and guided it gently. "Say hi." He leaned close, voice low. "Hey, Luke. Hey, Derek, it's Dad. I'm here." Erica swallowed hard. The word Dad did something to the air, expanded it, softened it, filled it with a promise no contract could ever hold. They waited until Erica's mother had a good day. The pain was manageable, laughter easier. In the late afternoon, Erica strung warm bulbs between the fence posts of the tiny backyard. The grass was uneven. The table was old, but the space felt like theirs. Wayne arrived with flowers he didn't pretend to understand. I asked the lady for whatever says respect. He helped set plates, poured sparkling cider, and took direction from Erica's aunt like a rookie learning a family recipe. After dinner, her mother motioned them closer. "You two think I can't see?" she teased, eyes bright. "I've been praying for this kind of good news since before you were born, girl." "Ma," Erica said, flustered. Her mother reached for her hand. "Let me have my moment." Wayne stood, breath unsteady in a way money can't fix. He pulled a small box from his jacket, no show, no speech he'd practiced in a mirror, then knelt on the patchy grass, as if it were the finest ground he'd ever touched. "Erica," he began, voice low, "everything about my life used to be contracts and conditions. You taught me grace without keeping score. You taught me that care can be quiet and still change everything." He opened the box. A simple ring, gold clean lines, nothing loud. "I don't want to love you from a distance. I want to wake up next to you when mornings are hard and when they're easy. I want to coach Luke and Derek on the same Saturday we take your mom to her favorite diner. I want to protect what we're building, for as long as I have breath." He looked up, eyes steady. "Will you marry me?" Tears gathered in Erica's eyes. She glanced at her mother, who nodded like a blessing. "Yes," Erica whispered. Then louder, "Sure, yes." Wayne slipped the ring onto her finger. Her mother clapped once and then covered her mouth, the sound coming out as a soft cry. Somewhere a neighbor cheered through the fence without pretending not to listen. Under the warm bulbs and a sky turning dark, they held each other. No grand music, no crowd, just the beginning of a family, wrapped in a promise that didn't need perfect edges to be everlasting. The week after the garden proposal, calendars filled. Not with grand plans, just careful ones. Erica's mother had good days and rough ones, so the ceremony needed to be close, simple, and kind to her body. St. Mark's offered the fellowship hall and a date the choir could make. Erica's aunt took charge of the menu with missionary focus. "We're doing baked chicken, collards, mac, candied yams, and cornbread," she said, tapping a pen against a notepad. "You, Mr. Wayne, what's a dish from your people?" Wayne thought for a moment. "My mom's from Vermont. She makes maple glazed salmon and sugar on snow for winter festivals." Auntie squinted. "We can work with salmon. And that snow thing? We'll negotiate." Erica laughed, hand over her growing belly. "We'll put the maple on the salmon and let the yams keep their crown." They kept the guest list small: family, the pastor, a few friends from the clinic and Wayne's office, neighbors who had carried groceries during long weeks. Erica's choir director offered 2 songs. Wayne booked a 3-piece jazz group for the reception: soft brass, upright bass, and a gentle piano line that felt like breathing. Wayne's mother arrived from Vermont 2 days early, carrying a tin of homemade cookies and a hug that lingered. She took Erica's mother's hands in hers and didn't pretend everything was fine. "We'll pace ourselves," she said, "and I'll sit beside you the whole time." They did premarital counseling with Pastor Ruth, short meetings after Erica's checkups. They talked about money, rest, boundaries, and forgiveness. On the last evening, Pastor Ruth set 2 chairs facing each other. "Finish this sentence," she said. "I feel most cared for when—" Erica looked at Wayne. "When you show up without explaining." Wayne swallowed. "When you tell me what you actually need and trust me enough to let me try." Pastor Ruth nodded. "Good. Keep those sentences close." On the final walkthrough at St. Mark's, Wayne practiced his way up the aisle like a nervous pianist, while Auntie taste-tested the catering. Wayne's mother stood with Erica's mother at the back door, planning where to sit to see everything without straining. It didn't feel like 2 families pushing together. It felt like one family making space. And in the middle of it all, Erica and Wayne kept catching each other's eyes across rooms, sharing a look that said, "We're really doing this." Rain threatened at noon, then changed its mind. The sanctuary lights glowed warm over a handful of guests, the aisle sprinkled with eucalyptus leaves that Auntie said smelled like a fresh start. The choir opened with a hymn Erica grew up on. Wayne stood at the front in a charcoal suit, hands loose at his sides, steadying his breath on the piano's slow line. When Erica appeared at the doorway, The sanctuary dimmed to her pace without anyone touching a switch. Her dress wasn't dramatic, soft fabric, clean lines, a veil pinned around her braids. She walked on her own, one hand on the small rise of her belly, the other brushing the wooden pews as if greeting them like old friends. Pastor Ruth smiled. "We are here to witness what they've already begun." Vows came first. They exchanged words they wrote on index cards the night before, sitting at Erica's kitchen table with tea and nervous laughter. Hers, promises about listening, honesty, and asking for help before she broke. His, promises about presence, patience, and choosing home over headlines. Rings followed. Wayne's fingers trembled and he didn't pretend otherwise. Erica steadied his hand with hers, and the sanctuary collectively exhaled. Then prayer, brief, beautiful, each mother with one hand on the couple's shoulders. The choir sang total praise. Wayne didn't turn toward the crowd, but Erica saw it. His eyes closed, his chin lifting slightly like he'd found a note he didn't know he could reach. They were pronounced husband and wife with no dramatic flourish, just a smile, a kiss that felt like a quiet seal, and a rumble of claps that turned into a soft cheer. The reception downstairs smelled like memories and new beginnings, the mingled aroma of greens, salmon, and cinnamon. The jazz trio tucked a classic into their set, then slid into a hymn refrain. People swayed without thinking. Wayne danced with Erica's, mother first, careful and slow, earning a whispered, "You step better than I expected, son." Erica danced with his mother, who held her close and said, "Thank you for giving my boy a piece he never knew he needed." They left before sundown, not because the party slowed, but because the night ahead belonged to them. Third trimester was kind, then fussy, then kind again. Twins had a way of running the show. At 37 weeks the doctor circled a date. 2 babies, 1 smooth plan, she said, scheduling a morning delivery with options, depending on how the boys wanted to arrive. Wayne packed a bag days early. Chargers, socks, snacks, a small speaker for soft music. He labeled everything like he was prepping for a board meeting, then laughed at himself and tossed the labels. The night before the date, Erica couldn't sleep. She lay with her head on Wayne's chest, listening to his heart and the muted city outside. "You ready?" she asked. "No," he said honestly, "but I'm coming anyway." Morning came with a sky the color of clean linen. At the hospital, rooms hummed with kind efficiency. Nurses learned their names fast. The doctor reviewed the plan again, then entered with a calm voice and capable hands. It moved from anticipation to action. Wayne wore the disposable cap and the too large gown, holding Erica's hand, murmuring little nothings that were only for her. Time stretched and then snapped into focus. The first cry startled him. Luke announced himself like a trumpet, strong, bright. Wayne's mouth fell open, and a sound he didn't recognize broke out of him, a laugh tangled with a sob. He kissed Erica's forehead once, twice, as the nurse held up their son. Moments later, Derek made his entrance, lower, calmer, but sure. Erica let out a breath she'd been holding for months. Wayne pressed his forehead to hers, tears relentless now. They placed each boy on Erica's chest in turn. Tiny fingers, soft hair, faces working out how to live in air. Wayne watched her speak their names over them, voice hoarse with joy. He cried without wiping his face, without apology. The man who once thought love was a liability stood wrecked in the best way, thanking everyone in the room, thanking Erica, thanking God under his breath. Later, in the quiet of recovery, he counted toes twice, then again for good measure. Erica laughed. "You realize they're not frogs, right?" "Can't be too careful," he said, still grinning, still wet-eyed. The first month learned their address and refused to leave. Diapers multiplied, bottles plotted late-night ambushes, laundry rehearsed escape acts. Somehow, in the middle of it, love kept the lights on. Luke liked to be swaddled like a burrito. Derek preferred one arm free, as if already volunteering to negotiate peace. Erica became a ninja with burp cloths. Wayne mastered the bounce-sway walk that soothed both boys, whispering jazz rhythms he couldn't pull off on a real instrument. Neighbors knocked with casseroles and jokes. Church aunties showed up with prayer and grocery lists. Wayne's mother stayed a week, then another, folding tiny onesies and teaching Wayne how to rock without overthinking. At 3 a.m. they learned who they were under pressure. Erica handled the second wake-up like a field medic, quick, gentle, decisive. Wayne, seeing her sway with both boys in the half-light, felt his chest go tight with awe. Not every hour was tender. Some were just tired. On a Tuesday morning, Derek launched a surprise during a diaper change, and Wayne took it like a man, straight to the shirt. Erica laughed so hard she had to sit down. He grinned, stared at the ceiling, and said, "I own a company and I am absolutely not in charge." Afternoons, when the boys napped on the same schedule, Erica and Wayne sat on the couch and did nothing. No planning, no speeches, just leaning into a silence that had new weight now, 2 bass notes sleeping down the hall. As months rolled, the house found a rhythm. Bottles labeled, tiny socks paired, stroller routes memorized. Wayne switched meetings to late mornings, kept his phone face down more often than not, and discovered that burping a baby could fix a man's priorities faster than any seminar. One night, after both boys went down early, they stood in the doorway, shoulder to shoulder. "We're doing it," Erica whispered. "We are," Wayne answered. "And I've never been more proud of anything." By the boys' 4th birthday, the apartment walls were a gallery of crayon rockets and lopsided baseballs. Luke loved books and asked 1,000 whys before breakfast. Derek loved people and remembered every name at church. Wayne had already trimmed his work weeks to 4 days, concentrating deep work into mornings and closing his laptop by dinner. But when a neighborhood league needed coaches, he surprised himself by raising a hand. "Start with 6-year-olds, the coordinator said. "But if you want to help with T-ball, we'll take you yesterday." Saturday mornings moved to the Diamond at Jackson Park. Dusty baselines, tiny gloves, caps too big for little heads. Wayne learned to tie batting helmets and undo knots in shoelaces faster than spreadsheets ever trained him. He swapped boardroom tone for kid-proof enthusiasm. "Great swing, Mateo." Luke, eyes on the ball. "Derek, cheer your brother, not the pigeons." He wasn't chasing a childhood he never had. He was building one for them. On the sidelines, Erica brought orange slices, a cooler, and that steady grin that told him he was exactly where he should be. "Did you sign an important deal today?" a dad asked once. Wayne shrugged, laughing. "Yeah." 2 of them slid into home and didn't cry. As the boys grew into their uniforms, Wayne kept his promise to the family and to himself. He turned down 3 travel-heavy partnerships and elevated a trusted VP to handle accounts that required constant flights. He shifted the company calendar to protect Saturdays from intrusions. Employees noticed and copied him, showing up at games with their own kids, clapping for any child who swung. Luke leaned toward pitching. Derek adored outfield and waving at strangers. Between innings, Wayne knelt in the dust to tie cleats, leaning close to say words that would outlast the game. "Proud of you for trying. We'll practice again. We do things with care." After one scrimmage, both boys ran into him at once, nearly knocking him over with gear and joy. Erica snapped the photo. "Coach," she teased, "your team's getting a little clingy." He didn't mind. He never would. When the twins turned 5, a quiet thought Erica had carried since the clinic days returned, not as pressure, but as promise. She stood in the hospital lobby, where she once worked the front desk, and watched a nurse bend to a child's level, explaining a procedure with kindness and clarity. "I want to finish," Erica said that night at the table, tracing circles on a napkin. 2 semesters short back then. "I'd like to go back, even if it's part-time. I miss caring for patients. I miss using what I learned." Wayne didn't give a speech. He opened his planner. "Let's build the schedule around it." They met with an advisor at city colleges, then at Chicago State, mapping prerequisites and clinicals. Auntie volunteered for school pickups on clinical days. Wayne rearranged his standing Monday meetings and added a night to his dinner rotation. Church friends offered to quiz Erica for exams. Wayne's mother mailed flashcards labeled in her careful script. The first week back, Erica sat in a lecture hall with students 10 years younger and felt the old shiver of doubt. Then a professor asked a question about patient advocacy, and Erica's hand went up before she could think. Words came easy, drawn from long months of caring for her mother, long nights with twins, and the clinic years that taught her how to listen. At home, the kitchen table turned into mission control. Textbooks, highlighters, a stethoscope Luke insisted on testing on the dog next door, practice sheets Derek colored in the margins. Wayne brewed tea at 9 and slid a fresh pen across the table at 10, saying, "You've got this," with a look that didn't require pep talks. She passed a hard exam by 1 point and cried from relief. She aced a clinical rotation and cried again, this time because she knew she was meant for the work. Months later, during the pinning ceremony, Wayne stood with the boys in little button-down shirts, clapping until his hands hurt. Erica took a position at Southview Medical. The first day she signed in wearing her badge, she paused in the hallway where she once sat counting bills and whispered, "Thank you." That evening, Luke and Derek tackled her at the door. "Nurse Mommy," they shouted, mangling the title just enough to make it perfect. Wayne kissed her forehead, placed her pin back in its box for safekeeping, and handed her a cup of tea, the kind he always gets right now. "I liked our beginning," he said, "but this is my favorite part." Erica smiled. "Me too, let's keep going." It started with a headline: Billionaire CEO's former flame files suit alleges emotional abuse and breach of promise. Wayne stared at the article on his tablet in utter disbelief. His breath hitched as he read the name behind the accusation: Charlotte Grayson, the woman he had once tried to love before he ever met Erica. The same woman who walked out when she learned he wasn't as emotionally detached as he pretended to be. She was back, and her claws were out. The news spread like wildfire. Social media ran with it. Paparazzi camped outside their home in Atlanta. Some blog called her the jilted heiress, painting Wayne as a cold-hearted tycoon who discarded Charlotte for a small-town girl with no pedigree. And in the most vicious corner of the internet, anonymous users questioned Erica's character. "She's just a maid he fell for? Girl must have trapped him somehow. I heard she used a fake pregnancy to win the ring. Bet she played the virgin card." Erica stayed off the internet, but Wayne couldn't, not with the board of directors calling emergency meetings and shareholders growing uneasy. Charlotte's legal team had filed for defamation and emotional damages, $25 million. At home, Wayne sat on the edge of their bed, his head in his hands. "I should have seen this coming," he muttered. Erica, now 6 months pregnant, knelt beside him and gently took his hand. "What she's doing isn't about love. It's about control. You moved on, Wayne. That's what hurts her the most. But you shouldn't be dragged into this," he said quietly. Erica met his eyes. "I'm not dragged. I walked into this with you. Whatever storm she brings, we'll face it together." Her voice, steady, unwavering, gave him something Charlotte never could: peace. The pressure built daily. Reporters screamed questions from across the street. Investors wanted statements. Charlotte was holding press conferences now, standing with tearful eyes and a trembling voice, telling anyone who would listen how Wayne emotionally abandoned her after promising marriage. "She said you proposed to her," Erica said one evening, folding the baby clothes she'd bought for the twins. Wayne groaned. "She proposed to me. I said I wasn't ready. I thought we ended it clean." Erica gave a small laugh. "That's the thing with people like her. They rewrite history to protect their pride." Despite the public scrutiny, Erica never wavered. At every court appearance, she held Wayne's hand as they walked past reporters. She answered nothing, showed no emotion. But inside, she was boiling. When a reporter yelled, "Is it true you seduced him while he was grieving Charlotte?" Erica stopped cold. She turned, looked the man straight in the eye and said clearly, "I didn't seduce anyone. I loved a man who needed real love. That's the only story here." The clip went viral. Thousands applauded her grace, her poise, her refusal to entertain the circus. At home, Wayne watched it a dozen times. "You were incredible," he whispered, resting his hand on her growing belly. "How do you stay so calm?" "I pray," she said. "And I know who you are, Wayne. The truth may take time, but it always shows up." He pulled her close. For once, Wayne, known for commanding boardrooms and intimidating rivals, felt protected by someone else's strength. The trial began with flashing cameras and high-profile attorneys. Charlotte came dressed in white, her legal team stacked with celebrity lawyers. Erica wore a simple navy blue dress and flats. Wayne showed up in a tailored suit, his jaw tight but calm. It looked like a war of empires. Charlotte's team presented photos, old love letters, alleged promises of marriage. Her voice cracked on the stand as she recounted romantic vacations and emotional manipulation. But then Wayne's attorney stood up. "We would like to submit evidence showing Miss Grayson was in a relationship with another man during the time she claims to have been exclusive with Mr. Caldwell," the lawyer said. Shock swept the room. A security officer confirmed Charlotte had been seen entering another man's penthouse repeatedly during the same months. She claimed emotional abandonment. Text messages were presented, so were timestamps and hotel records. The air drained from Charlotte's face. When she returned to the stand, her composure cracked. "It wasn't like that. I was hurt. Wayne didn't choose me. I needed comfort." But the court wasn't interested in emotional spin. Charlotte's lies had unraveled. Outside, the tone changed. Media outlets stopped treating her as the wounded lover and started labeling her a manipulator. "Grayson's fabricated romance," one headline read. Erica said nothing. She simply squeezed Wayne's hand. In private, though, she sat alone on their porch, hands folded over her belly, and prayed. "Thank you, Lord, not just for the truth coming out, but for strengthening us through it." When the judge dismissed Charlotte's suit and awarded court fees to Wayne, it marked the beginning of his redemption. But it wasn't the ruling that changed public opinion. It was how Wayne carried himself through the storm. He didn't retaliate. He didn't issue dramatic statements. Instead, he quietly announced a new initiative, a foundation supporting women who had been publicly shamed by lies or character defamation. The name of the fund? Grace and Truth. It made headlines for the right reasons. Wayne also donated to a women's shelter Erica once volunteered at, prompting a moving thank you letter from the director that was shared across social media. Erica's quiet strength and Wayne's humility became the story. One viral comment summed it up: "That woman stood by her man, and he honored her by rising higher." That's love. When Wayne stepped onto the stage at a business summit a month later, he received a standing ovation. He spoke softly, not about his company, but about loyalty. "Success doesn't mean much if you lose your soul defending it. I was ready to fight, but my wife taught me how to stand. Grace doesn't shout, it endures." The room was silent, and in that moment, Wayne Caldwell wasn't just a CEO, he was a man reborn. The final day of court wasn't about Charlotte. She had quietly left the courtroom before the session even ended. Her legal team had vanished, the judge had spoken, and now Wayne stood alone at the front, addressing the bench one last time. "Your Honor," he said, "with your permission, I'd like to say something." The judge nodded. Wayne turned. But not to the crowd, not to the press. He turned to Erica. "I spent a lot of my life thinking love was a transaction, measurable, controllable. But then this woman, she showed me otherwise." Erica blinked back tears. "She didn't just love me when it was convenient. She stood beside me when my past came roaring back. She didn't flinch, didn't run. And in doing that, she taught me how to be a man worthy of standing beside her." The courtroom fell into a sacred silence. Erica rose slowly, walked to him, and took his hand. The judge cleared his throat, visibly moved. "Mr. Caldwell, consider your words entered into the record." As they walked out of the courtroom, Wayne didn't rush to the cameras. He whispered to Erica, "Let's go home." She smiled. "Our story's just beginning." Have you ever stood by someone when everyone else walked away? That's love. Subscribe if you believe in loyalty like Erica's. When I look back now, it all feels like a dream I wasn't supposed to have. There was a time when I thought the only thing I'd ever be was someone's burden. Then I met him, Wayne Caldwell, a man who thought he needed no heart to be a father. He thought I was just a body for hire, and I thought he was a man too damaged to care. But God had other plans. That night we came together. It wasn't a transaction, it was transformation. For both of us. Erica, I was terrified, but he cried. Like a man who just found out he was chosen by grace, I watched him become the man he never thought he could be. When I said yes, I wasn't just agreeing to love him, I was agreeing to heal, together. And then came Luke and Derek, two little kings who completed our kingdom. This is my real happy ending. The sun hung low over the quiet suburb of Marietta, Georgia, casting soft golden light through the lace curtains in the Caldwell kitchen. Erica, wearing a loose floral blouse and apron, stirred the collard greens while humming softly to the gospel music playing from the Bluetooth speaker on the windowsill. In the living room, laughter echoed as Luke and Derek, now 7, chased each other with paper airplanes. Their curls bounced with every leap. Their joy was loud, infectious, and unfiltered. "Y'all better not knock over that vase," Erica called, glancing from the kitchen archway, but her warning had a soft chuckle tucked in the middle. Wayne stepped in from the backyard, a charcoal-smeared apron tied over his crisp white polo. "Cornbread's golden," he said proudly, holding up the cast-iron skillet. "I didn't burn it this time." Erica turned, smirked, and gave him a peck on the cheek. Miracles do happen. Just then, the doorbell rang. Moments later, Erica's cousin Tanya walked in with a sweet potato pie in hand and her 2 daughters trailing behind. Aunt Mavis followed, carrying a pan of mac and cheese, like it was the Holy Grail. "This house smells like heaven," Mavis declared. "Girl, you outdid yourself." They all gathered around the dining table, a long oak centerpiece Wayne had commissioned as a gift after the twins were born. Above it hung a handmade wooden plaque Erica had designed herself, etched with the words, "Grace built this home." As they said grace, Erica's hand tightened around Wayne's. He bowed his head, holding one of the boys on each side. "Lord, thank you for the food, the hands that prepared it, and the love that keeps us full long after the table is cleared," Aunt Mavis prayed. Dinner was loud and full of stories. Tanya's tales from her new salon, Wayne trying to explain football to Aunt Mavis, and Derek insisting his teacher told him he'd be president one day. At one point, Erica watched her family. Black, white, tall, short, loud, soft, all blended together like the meal on their plates. Wayne was helping one of Tanya's girls cut her chicken, while Luke reached across to grab a biscuit. No tension, no division, just warmth. Her eyes welled up. Tanya noticed and leaned over. "You okay?" Erica smiled. "Better than okay. I'm living a prayer I forgot I prayed." After dinner, they sat on the porch. Kids ran through the lawn with popsicles in hand while the adults sipped sweet tea. The men argued about baseball. The women laughed about old crushes. The porch light buzzed above them, and fireflies danced in the dusk. Wayne pulled Erica close beside him on the porch swing. He kissed her temple and whispered, "This is what I always needed. I just didn't know it had a name." "What's the name?" she asked. "Home," he replied. She laid her head on his shoulder, her heart full and silent. In a world that tried to define family with rules and conditions, they'd written their own definition. A family not born just of blood, but of faith, forgiveness, and a love that chose them. 3 years later, the twins were 10 now, taller, louder, smarter, and full of opinions that made Erica wonder when exactly they'd stopped being her babies. The house had shifted from lullabies and bottles to science projects and notebooks scattered across the coffee table. Luke had taken over Wayne's home office, turning it into what he proudly called the imagination room. Crayon-drawn book covers were pinned all over the walls, stories about time travelers, haunted school buses, and brave boys who fought evil bullies with kindness. One evening, Erica walked in and found Luke hunched over his desk with his glasses halfway down his nose, tongue poking out in concentration as he scribbled in his notebook. "What you working on, baby?" Luke beamed. "It's my new chapter. The hero's mom works 2 jobs and still tucks him in every night." Erica's throat tightened. "She sounds strong," she said softly. "She's you," Luke replied without even glancing up. Wayne, listening from the hallway, quietly wiped his eyes. That boy didn't just inherit Erica's heart, he mirrored it in every word he wrote. Meanwhile, Derek was often found in the garage, his self-declared lab, wires, Legos, baking soda volcanoes, and a telescope cluttered his workbench. One Saturday morning, he rushed into the living room holding a small device that looked like a sandwich of wires and plastic caps. "Dad, I made a sensor that beeps when the cookies are done." Wayne raised a brow. "You just reinvented the oven timer." "No," Derek said confidently. "I made it better. This one plays music when the cookies are ready. Want to hear it?" "Only if it's not country," Wayne teased. Erica shook her head, smiling as her boys burst into laughter. Every week brought something new. Luke reading aloud at the school library, his voice trembling but growing stronger each page. Derek winning the science fair with a model of Mars, explaining it with words most adults couldn't pronounce. At night, the four of them would sit on the couch, the boys wedged between their parents. Luke would read his stories out loud, and Derek would explain what bacteria was growing in the school bathrooms, usually right before dinner. But what Erica and Wayne cherished most wasn't the achievements. It was the bond. Derek defended his brother when older kids laughed at his writing. Luke helped Derek with spelling and taught him how to structure his speeches. They weren't just twins. They were teammates. Erica once asked Wayne if he ever regretted not going through with the original surrogacy plan. He looked at her, eyes soft, and said, "If I had, I might have had a child, but I would have missed out on a family." The boys weren't just growing, they were becoming, and Wayne and Erica were building a legacy, one filled with pages and possibilities. As Luke once wrote in his notebook, "My family is my superhero origin story." It was a quiet Sunday afternoon, the kind where the breeze carried the scent of fresh-cut grass like a hymn of. Wayne and Erica sat on a wooden bench under the oak tree in their backyard, the same spot where years ago he'd once whispered his promise to love her beyond logic, beyond plan. The boys were running barefoot across the lawn, chasing each other with foam swords and wild imaginations. Luke had tucked a homemade cape into the collar of his shirt. Derek had science goggles strapped over his eyes, pretending to be a futuristic inventor fighting to save the planet. "They're everything I never knew I needed," Wayne said, watching them with a quiet reverence. Erica leaned into him, resting her head on his shoulder. "You say that every week, because it keeps getting truer." They didn't talk much in moments like this. They didn't need to. Sometimes love was loud, anniversaries, kisses, declarations, but other times it was still. It lived in the silence between heartbeats, in the press of hands and the rhythm of breathing in sync. Wayne reached over and took Erica's hand, their fingers locked, weathered from years of holding on through storms, hospital bills, betrayal, public scandal, motherhood, fatherhood, but also softened by shared joys, 2 healthy boys, a rebuilt reputation, nights of laughter in a modest kitchen. "I used to think legacy meant buildings and boardrooms," Wayne said. "Now I know it's bedtime stories and muddy footprints on clean floors." Erica chuckled. "And sticky fingers on the fridge." They watched as Luke tackled Derek, then quickly helped him up and whispered something in his ear. Derek grinned and gave him a high five. Whatever they were imagining, it had pulled them into another world. "Our boys love each other," Erica said with pride. "They protect each other, just like you protected me," Wayne replied, turning to look at her. "When I didn't even deserve it." Erica's eyes held him gently. "You didn't have to deserve it. You just had to be willing to change." He kissed the back of her hand. "Thank you for not letting me go." They both looked out again as the boys picked up new sticks and shouted, "Defend the castle!" before charging toward the rose bushes. Wayne winced. "There goes the landscaping." Erica laughed, full and unfiltered. "Let them be boys. We can always replant roses, but we only get these days once." Wayne studied her for a moment. Her eyes sparkled with motherhood, wisdom, and unwavering faith. Her hair swayed gently in the breeze. The woman who once stood before him, as a quiet virgin carrying invisible wounds, now shone with a kind of glory that made his chest tighten. "You're the best thing that's ever happened to me," he whispered. She gave his hand a soft squeeze. "I know." They stayed there until the sun dipped behind the fence, casting golden light across the yard. Until the boys flopped onto the grass, breathless, their chests rising and falling in perfect sync, like their parents. 2 little legacies running free. The house was quieter now. Dinner dishes were done. Derek had finally stopped trying to put ketchup on his spaghetti, and Luke had convinced his dad to read The Lion and the Mouse for the third night in a row. Upstairs, the boys were tucked into bed, their soft snores echoing down the hallway like a lullaby only love could write. Wayne and Erica returned to their bench under the stars. But this time, it wasn't about watching the kids run. It was about remembering the road they took to get here. He didn't want love. He wanted a contract, a transaction, a child without emotion, a future without mess. But life doesn't honor hollow plans. God had other blueprints. One that began with a broken girl who had never been kissed and a man who'd been kissed too many times by women who didn't love his soul. She looked over at Wayne, sitting beside her, the same man who once walked into her life as a stranger cloaked in pain. Now, he was her partner, her protector, her peace. I didn't plan to fall in love. I didn't even believe I could be loved like this. But he saw me, really saw me. Not my weight, not my scars, not my past. And I saw him too, not the CEO, not the money, but the man who cried in a delivery room when our sons took their first breath. We built this, not out of convenience or desperation, but out of real, patient, tested love. A love that stood when the world tried to tear us down. A love that grew between midnight feedings and morning kisses. A love that didn't care how we started, only how we chose to finish. As she thought, Wayne reached for her hand again. He never got tired of holding it. My sons are my crown. Derek says he'll be a scientist, already building inventions from cereal boxes and shoelaces. But when they ask me one day how they got here, I won't say surrogacy. I'll say grace. I'll say God. I'll say their daddy wanted something cold, but love melted him. She turned to Wayne and whispered aloud what had lived inside her all these years. He let them fall, because every word was true, every moment was earned, every breath they shared now came from the decision to stay, when leaving would have been easier. Love can't be bought. No amount of money will heal the wounds of the heart, but love, in its purest form, will. Purity is power, not just physical purity, but the purity of intention, of forgiveness, of showing up for someone with no agenda. Family is earned. Biology starts a family. Loyalty builds it. Sacrifice preserves it. Love cements it. If you've ever been changed by love, share this story. Comment below what legacy you want to leave behind. Like if you believe that loyalty builds family. Subscribe for more stories that restore faith in love.